Hey everybody, how are we all doing? Welcome to the latest video. We've got the Necron Codex. Games Workshop have very kindly sent me a copy of the Necron Codex to go through for you all, and it's awesome. It's really cool. I'm dead excited about it. We're going to go through, in this video, we're going to go through all the detachments, the army rule and all the detachments, all the enhancements and all the stratagems, and then I'm going to do another video with all the unit changes. We're going to go through some of the unit changes in this one, but we're going to go through all the unit changes in another video, and then in that other video as well, I'm going to go through some of the kind of little synergies as well, which I think are really cool. So if you just want to know all the rules and all the changes, then stick to this video, and then if you want to kind of find out a little bit more about how the army might work and how all the detachments might work, then you can tune into the next video as well. It's very cool. So we're going to quickly go over the that's the wrong one. There we go. I'm going to quickly go over the like the highlights, if you like. So the army rule is the reanimation protocols. This is pretty much exactly the same as it was in the index. There's just one little change in that reanimation protocols can now only happen if you are on the battlefield. So if you're on the table, there is a stratagem in one of the detachments later which allows you to do it when you're off the battlefield, which is quite cool. But ultimately, if you're on the table, then you can reanimate. I don't know how that works if you are in a vehicle, because technically you won't be on the battlefield. So if you go into your Ghost Ark, you're probably not going to be reanimating when you kind of get into the Ghost Ark. So if you put a unit of 5 warriors back into a Ghost Ark, then they will probably not do the reanimations. You might be able to pick them. I'll have to check the wording. You might be able to pick them with the Ghost Ark's ability. But apart from that, reanimation as an army rule only happens when you're on the tabletop. It's really cool, so that's good. The other kind of top changes, like some highlights, there is a lone op change. The only lone op that you can have in the army is the Hexmark Destroyer, the Technomancer with a Canoptek Cloak. Interestingly, he now always has the Canoptek Cloak, but that Canoptek Cloak Technomancer is now no longer a lone op. One of the other big changes is a big impactful change. It's going to change a little bit how we are going to be writing lists, and what to think about is the reanimation, the amount of reanimation that we're going to be able to get. Mainly it's changing for the warriors, so the warriors now reanimate a little bit less. They're not going to be getting D3+3 if they're on an objective or anything like that. So they're getting a little bit less reanimation. They're more reliable. You're basically just re-rolling the D3 for their reanimation. And then also the reanimator as well, his aura of reanimation has just shrunk a little bit, so you're going to have to be a little bit tighter if you do want to have like a Silver Tide big core castle in the middle sort of thing. The movement characteristics in the book have all gone up mostly, so that's really interesting. There's lots of the Canoptek stuff, there's lots of the Destroyer Cult stuff. Everything's just kind of gained a pip of movement, so like going from 7 to 8 inches, things like that. It's very good. Speeds us up a little bit because we were a little bit slow with some of our kind of counter-attacking units. And then also a really interesting change is the Tomb Blades. Now the Tomb Blades have got a lot of war gear on them. They have a lot of war gear on their data card, and they still do. However, the Tomb Blades now fire and fade, so they're not -1 to hit. They now fire and fade, which is really cool. They have a 3+ save on the war gear, and you can give them stealth now as well. So you can have stealthy fire and fading Tomb Blades, which that sounds quite cool. Sorry. The Crypto Thralls unfortunately have lost their 4-up Feel No Pain. They don't give that to a unit anymore. Sorry, they don't give that to themselves, so they can't tank wounds on themselves anymore. The only thing that they now give is they give a 4-up Feel No Pain for the Cryptek that they are attached to. So if the Cryptek gets wounded from some precision strikes or anything like that, then you can have a 4-up Feel No Pain from the Crypto Thralls. The Crypto Thralls will get in the way. And the big talking point, if you like, within the community is the lost data sheets. What data sheets have been lost from the Codex? Unfortunately, and it's a little bit sad because I really like the model, Anrakaya has gone. Anrakaya the Traveller has gone. He is no longer in the army book, which is a shame. He was one of my favourite models, just in terms of the look and aesthetic of him, and his face, the skull and everything. Unfortunately, he is no longer there. And then also Nemesaur, Zandrek and Oberon, they are also gone, so they are no longer in there either, which is a bit of a shame. I ran Nemesaur Zandrek in one of my narrative tournament list because he's quite fun, and you can do some quite sneaky things with him. Yeah, so he is no longer in the Codex, and then the Overlord has now just been squashed into one datasheet. So all the kind of the plethora of Overlord datasheets that we used to have, they're now just like crushed into one, and then you can just pick the war gear to kind of to manipulate and change the Overlord himself. And obviously we have the new translocation shroud, which is rather interesting. So let's go and have a look at some of the detachments that we get. We have, the first one up is, so the Awakened Dynasty. The Awakened Dynasty is the one that was in the index. It hasn't really had that much of a change. They've tweaked some names and things like that around, and a couple of rules have tweaked and changed, but that's about it. So it is still +1 to hit, so we are adding +1 to the hit roll if you are being led by a character in the unit. The enhancements, we have the Veil of Darkness, which is absolutely identical. You can pick up the model and his unit at the end of your opponent's movement phase. The end of your opponent's turn, and then you can drop it back down in the reinforcement step of our next movement phase, which is fine. So it's just like a pick-up deep strike. So absolutely fine. You have to be out of engagement range, so you can't pull them out of combat like you used to be able to in previous editions, which is fine. The Netherrealm Casket is a renamed hypermaterial ablator, and that no longer gives cover, it just gives stealth. So we're just going to have one stealth unit. We're not gaining cover from that, but then cover's so easy to gain anyway, so that's fine. The Phasal Subjugator, which is an aura, and that one is the old Sovereign Coronal. Now interestingly, this one has had a bit of a change. This one now no longer counts as being led if you are within 6 inches. Now it's just a aura of +1 to hit if you are within 6 inches. Now this changes some of the stratagems. You used to be able to have the Sovereign Coronal standing by something, and then you could play a stratagem on them, and then the stratagems tended to have, in addition, if your unit is being led, you get an extra bonus. So you're not going to be able to get that anymore from the Phasal Subjugator. And the Anemic Dermal Bond is the Sempiternal Weave, which is still a 4+ Feel No Pain. However, one of the other changes in the Codex is that the Transcendent Catan can no longer have enhancements, which is arguably a good thing. Come back to the next video to find out how the Catans have changed, because they have, and they are still good. Oh my god. Right, so going on to stratagems. Again, they've had a few little changes in terms of wording. So the Protocol of the Eternal Guardian is now the Protocol of the Eternal Revenant, and that has been changed. That is where you're bringing back a Necron character when he's died. It's been just cleared up. It's coming back at the end of the phase, so you don't come back immediately and then get killed again, which is great. So you're coming back at the end of the phase, and you still have half the number of starting wounds, which is fine. You can only do that once. The Protocol of the Undying Legions is still the same, so that's unchanged. It's D3 wounds plus the reanimation, so it's D3 +1 if your character is leading the unit as well. The Protocol of the Hungry Void is slightly changed. The only thing that this has changed is that, so this is in the fight phase. For those of you who don't know, this is in your fight phase. You can increase the armor penetration of the weapons and the strength characteristic of the weapons in the unit by 1. The only thing that this has changed now is that you can't stack this on top of other things. So you can't get an extra +1 armor penetration or anything like that. The protocol of the Sudden Storm is exactly the same. That's unchanged. It gives you assault weapons, so you can move, advance, and still do a action, or still do a secondary if you are eligible to shoot. In addition, the Necron characters leading the unit, you can re-roll advanced charges, which is absolutely fine, so that's exactly the same. Protocol of the Conquering Tyrant is now not... It used to re-roll wounds if you were being led by a character. Now it is just re-roll ones if you are within half range, and if a Necron character is leading the unit, you can re-roll the hit roll. So you can re-roll everything if you're in half range. You can re-roll ones if you're in half range. If a Necron character is leading the unit, you can re-roll the entire hit roll. Now, the way that's worded, I think it means that if a character is leading the unit, you can do it at full range as well, because it literally just says, if a Necron character is leading your unit until the end of the phase, you can re-roll the hit roll for that attack instead. So if... Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack that targets a unit within half range, re-roll a 1. If a Necron character is leading the unit until the end of the phase, you can re-roll the hit roll for that attack instead. I think actually, having read that again, I think that is still within half range. So if you're within half range, then you can re-roll the entire attack. You can re-roll everything if you're a Necron character. Protocol of the Vengeful Stars has had a slight change. This is going to be a little bit of a deterrent stratagem. It's 2 command points as well, and it used to be you could pick a unit and it would shoot back. Now you have to pick a Necron character unit from your army that was within 6 inches of the Necron unit when it was destroyed. So if an enemy kills a unit, then a Necron character that's nearby, wink wink nudge nudge, it's going to be a Catan, you can spend 2 command points and then you can shoot back at that unit, which is, it's alright. It's 2 command points seems a lot, but it's going to be I think it's probably going to be a bit more of a deterrent. If you put your Tomb Blades next to a Catan, by the way, if you kill the Tomb Blades, my Catan's going to be able to shoot back at you, so things like that, it might be a bit more of a deterrent. So the next one that we've got is the Annihilation Legion, the first of the new detachments, and this is Destroyer Cult and Flayed Ones. This is locked to the Destroyer Cult and Flayed One keyword, although not as much as you would think as you are going through. So the Annihilation Protocol in itself is each time a Destroyer Cult or Flayed One unit from your army declares a charge, you can re-roll that charge. If one or more targets of that charge are below half strength, add 1 to the charge as well. It's going to be very situational. It's going to be very helpful when you're shooting a unit and your opponent is trying to pull models away to make the charge longer. If you pull models too far, if you pull too many models away because we killed too many, then we're going to get +1 to the charge. So that's going to be helpful. Anyway, enhancements. I do like the reroll charge though. Rerolling charges is obviously going to be great. Rerollable 9 inches from Deep Strike. It's going to be quite cool. So things like Ophidian Destroyers, if you do want to use them as a bit more of an offensive pop up and then charge, so they're going to get re-rollable 9-inch charges, which is going to obviously increase their potential. And in terms of enhancements, we have the Eternal Madness, which is fight on death on a 4+. So you give it to a Necron model, and then him and his unit will fight on death. Now, one of the changes I haven't spoken about is that Technomancers can now join Wraiths. So put this on a Wraith. Put this on a Technomancer, stick him in a unit of Wraiths, and then they're fighting on death. Put it on a Scorpek Lord, a unit of Scorpeks, now they're all fighting on death as well on a 4+. It could be quite cool. Ingrained Superiority, Necron model only. Each time a model in the bearer's unit makes an attack, critical wound, improve the armor penetration characteristic of that attack by 1. So this is for... So this is going to be really, really useful for things like Scorpek Destroyers, and you could probably use it for Locust Destroyers as well. You can stick a Locust Lord in a unit of Locust Destroyers, and we're getting a bit more armor penetration, so that's going to be really, really helpful for shooting. The next enhancement is Soulless Reaper. destroyer cult model only. So this is one of the ones which is locked to a destroyer cult. Each time an enemy unit is within engagement range, on a 3+, they can't fall back and must remain in engagement range. So they must remain in combat. So 3+ can't fall back, which is really good. Yeah, just imagine being stuck in combat with Scorpet destroyers for another turn. Eldritch Nightmare, destroyer cult model only. At the start of the fight phase, each enemy unit within engagement range of the bearer must take a battle shock test. So battle shocks at the start of the fight phase, it's going to be really useful for things like Armour of Contempt, preventing Terminators from having Armour of Contempt when you're charging into them, things like that. So very, very useful. Situational again, but I do like, I've said it before, I like the way the codexes at the moment are limiting the, just kind of like limiting the options that you have, but within a situational environment. So it's really, really good. It's not like an overpowering, everybody gets +1 to hit and +1 to wound all the time everywhere, unless you Votan. Right, so the stratagems for the Annihilation Legion, we have Masks of Death. So it's 1 command point, and you target 1 destroyer cult or flayed one of the unit from your army that is selected as the attack of one or more of the that is selected as the target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks till the end of the phase, -1 to hit. So it's like the whirling onslaught that they used to get. So Scorpet destroyers now have -1 to hit. It used to be -1 to wound, but now it's -1 to hit, which is fine. The Spore of Frailty, which is a battle tactic. Very, very cool. So this is the first battle tactic on the new stuff. So in your shooting phase or fight phase, and again you're picking a destroyer cult or a flayed one unit until the end of the phase, when they attack a unit that's below half strength, add 1 to the hit roll. If the target is below half strength, add 1 to the wound roll as well. So if you add this, if you play this on flayed ones are already re-rolling wounds if the enemy unit is below starting strength. Now, if they are below starting strength and below half strength, you're going to be hitting on a 2+, because you +1 to the hit roll, and then you're wounding on +1 with re-rolls as well. So flayed ones, it's going to be really, really useful for destroyer cults, obviously Scorpet destroyers, Ophidian destroyers, anything like that going into anything in the fight phase is going to be great. So Murderous Reanimation is the next stratagem in this one, and this is also a battle tactic stratagem, which is going to be cool. And this is in the fight phase. It's quite an interesting one, this one. So it's when 1 destroyer cult or flayed one unit from your army that has just destroyed an enemy unit or just caused an enemy unit to drop below half strength. So it wasn't below half strength before, and now it is below half strength. You can activate reanimation protocols. So if you're going in with Scorpet destroyers, you're destroying a unit or you're dropping a unit below half strength, then you can reanimate some more of your models, which is quite cool. And that happens straight away. So it happens in the fight phase. So if you are going in with a lower strength unit, so a unit that's maybe have taken some Overwatch or something, going in, killing some of the enemy units, and then you can reanimate and top that unit back up, which is really, really cool. So Pitiless Hunters is also a battle tactic stratagem. It's in the fight phase, 1 destroyer cult or flayed one units again, so it's locked to those 2 keywords until the end of the phase. Each time you pile in or consolidate, you can move 6 rather than 3. This is going to be awesome for getting onto objectives. It's also going to be really, really good for just trying to do some shenanigans, so you can block your way into combat, and then make use of the full 6-inch pile-in. It's going to be really cool, and obviously if you're using it for Scorpet destroyers as well, they've got slightly larger bases, so you can block your units way into combat to then allow them to be able to pile in 6 inches if you need them to. Yeah, really, really cool. Nice strat, particularly for kind of wrapping around, getting to other areas in the battlefield that you want to during the combat phase. Blood Fueled Cruelty is also a battle tactic stratagem. There are loads of battle tactic strats in this one. This is 1 command point as well, and you use it in your opponent's movement phase just after they've fallen back. So 1 destroyer cult or flayed one unit from your army that started the phase within engagement range of that enemy unit. And you roll 1d6. On a 2 to 5, they take d3 mortal wounds. On a 6, they suffer 3 mortal wounds. And your unit can then make a normal move, but must end that move as close as possible to that enemy unit. So if you are falling back from Scorpec Destroyers, and remember they are now movement 8, they're not movement 7 anymore. So if you're falling back from Scorpec Destroyers, or even Ophidian Destroyers, because they're fast as well, and then they're going to be taking mortal wounds, and then you can move and then get back into combat with them potentially. Again, this could end up being one of those deterrent stratagems. So if you fall back, you're going to be taking mortal wounds, and then I'm going to still be in combat with you. Could be quite cool. Remember, when they're falling back as well, Destroyer Cult models are generally going to be faster moving than the enemy that's actually falling back. So you're going to be back in combat with them. That's going to be a bit of a deterrent strat, I think. Insanity's Ire is the last one, and this is a strategic ploy strat. And it's your enemy's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has shot. One Destroyer Cult or Flayed One unit from your army that had one or more of its models destroyed, your unit can then make a normal move. So this is like a surge move from the Termagants and everything. It's a normal move, but must end that move as close as possible to that enemy unit. And this is the unit as well, so the unit has to end up as close as possible to the enemy unit. So you are pretty much this isn't going to be one of the ones where you can move one model closer and the rest can go in an opposite direction. You're going to have to get everybody as close as possible to that enemy unit. So it's not quite as controllable in terms of spreading out and blocking lines of sight, or blocking angles of charges and things like that, but it's still going to be quite cool just to get Scorpec Destroyers, or even Flayed Ones, just like a little bit closer. Although if your Flayed Ones are being shot, they're generally dead. Right, so the next one, we have the Canoptek Court. Now this is arguably one of my favourite ones. I really need to dive into this one a little bit more. We're going to do that in the next video as well. We're going to try and find some combinations which might work for this, because the Canoptek Court has got a detachment rule called the Power Matrix. Now, this is quite wordy, but it does make sense quite quickly once you've figured it out. So certain areas of the battlefield are considered to be within your army's power matrix. Your deployment zone is always within your power matrix. At the start of any phase, so you check at the beginning of any phase, if you control at least half of the objective markers in No Man's Land, then No Man's Land is within your army's power matrix for that phase. And then at the start of any phase, if you control at least half of the objective markers within your opponent's deployment zone until the end of the phase, that's in your power matrix. So if you can drop in the movement phase, so Ophidian Destroyers, for instance, you can drop in and take your enemy's deployment zone, your enemy's deployment zone objective marker. Then in the fight phase or in the shooting phase, then that deployment zone then becomes part of your power matrix. And each time a model in a Cryptek or Canoptek unit from your army makes an attack, you can re-roll ones to hit. If your unit is wholly within your army's power matrix, you can re-roll the hit roll instead. So you're always re-rolling ones with Canoptek's or Cryptek units, but if your unit is wholly within your power matrix, you can re-roll the hit roll instead. So you can re-roll all the hit rolls. And remember, Canoptek units tend to hit on 4s rather than 3s. So you're re-rolling 1s anyway, and if you're wholly within, then you're re-rolling everything. I like this. I really, really like this. I think these kind of little rules give much more delineation between ballistic skills, and so you want Canoptek units to hit a little bit better than Space Marines. You want to get Canoptek units to hit a little bit better, but not quite as well as Space Marines. Then you can make them re-roll just 1. So you hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s. It's not quite as good as hitting on 3s, but you just get that little bit more delineation between power levels. I really like that. It's really, really cool. Now, the enhancements. Dimensional Sanctum is a Cryptek model only. Models in the bearer's unit have infiltrate. Oh, it's so good. So cool. Cryptek model only. Stick it on a Technomancer. I mean, I said I'm not going to do like combinations and everything in this video, but put it in a Technomancer. Stick that Technomancer in a unit of Wraiths. You've suddenly got 6 infiltrating Wraiths. Very, very cool. Right. And also, Wraiths have got better. So, Hyperphasic Fulcrum. Cryptek model only. While the bearer is leading a unit, if that unit is wholly within your army's power matrix, each time a model in the unit makes an attack, re-roll wounds of 1. So you're re-rolling wounds of 1. I'm super excited. Super excited about this, and I need to kind of dig a little bit deeper into this one. This whole detachment, because Canoptek stuff is going to be quite cool. I think it's going to be quite cool. Auto Divinator is the next enhancement, and it is a Cryptek model only. Each time your opponent gives a CP as a result of an ability, roll 1d6. On a 2+, you get a command point as well. I don't know how many abilities there are in the game that give your opponent command points. If they start being very prevalent, things like if you coming up against Space Marines and Marnia's Calgar is just like everywhere in the meta, then this might be quite interesting. The stratagems are okay in this detachment, so it might be quite useful. So we'll see. Command points are always going to be good, but I don't know how much we're going to be able to make use of them. The Metalodermal Tesla Weave is a Cryptek model only again, once per phase, which makes sense because like this is Cryptek and Canoptek, and there aren't any Canoptek characters. So once per phase, when an enemy unit selects the bearer's unit as a target of a charge, roll a d6. On a 2 to a 5, the enemy unit takes d3 mortal wounds. On a 6, you take 3 mortal wounds. Love it. Very, very cool. Oh, by the way, if you charge that unit, you're going to be taking mortal wounds. Yeah, it might just encourage people not to charge. Like if you're just trying to tie up a unit or block the way for a unit of wraiths or something, could be really, really cool. Right, let's have a look at the stratagems for this one. Again, there's quite a few battle tactics in this one. Actually, no, there's only 2. I tell a lie. There's only 2 in this one. So, Curse of the Cryptek. This is in your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase. One Cryptek model from your unit that was destroyed by one of the attacking unit's attacks. For the rest of the battle, friendly Canoptek models making an attack against that unit, add 1 to hits and add 1 to wound. So this is pretty much the Leagues of Votann army rule. So if the only thing is you've got to have a Cryptek, you've got to throw a Cryptek out, get the Cryptek killed nice and early on by the hardest unit in the enemy army, and then everything else gets +1 to hit and +1 to wound. So you've got a judgment token on that unit. Again, this is going to be one of those ones that is like, by the way, if you kill that Cryptek with that unit, I can't see this coming into effect very often, because as soon as you tell your opponent, then your opponent isn't going to take the unit of Devastator Centurions and kill the Cryptek. He's going to kill the Cryptek with a unit of Infiltrators or something. So it could be clutch in certain situations, but we'll see how we do with that one. The Signer Closure of Eradication is the next one. And this is 2 command points, but it is at the start of your shooting phase or the start of your fight phase. You pick a Cryptek or a Canoptek unit that is wholly within your army's power matrix, and they get devastating wounds. Dev wounds wraiths, dev wounds anything else. It's in your shooting phase as well, so you could use it on what's shooting for Canoptek-y stuff. I mean, you can put. You can give devastating wounds to immortals or warriors, so you can put a Cryptek in a unit of warriors, and then suddenly the warriors have devastating wounds. It might be quite interesting, but yeah, that could be rather fun. It's 2 command points. Warriors is probably the one you would like to go for. Wraith with devastating wounds is obviously going to be really, really interesting, particularly with the whip coils, because the whip coils get a load of attacks. So yeah, there's some options there. Solar Pulse, 1 command point. It's at the start of your shooting phase, and you have 1 Cryptek model from your army. select one objective marker within 18 inches of said Cryptek model. Until the end of the phase, models equipped by friendly Necron models have the ignore cover ability while targeting units within range of that objective marker. It's a really, really wordy way of saying that if there's a unit on a objective marker, you can take the cover off them, so you can have ignores cover for your entire army shooting that unit for one command point. Reactive subroutines. This is one command point. This is a strategic ploy, and it's in your opponent's movement phase just after a unit has made a normal, advance, or fallback move. One Canoptek unit that is within 9 inches of that unit can make a normal move of up to 6 inches. Out of phase and out of turn movement is brilliant in 40k, and this is awesome. It's not quite Phantasm. It's the Space Marine version where you have to be within 9 inches. So again, this is going to be one of those deterrent ones. If you finish within 9 inches of this unit, I'm going to be able to make a move. Obviously, it's going to be really helpful if the enemy is going to try and charge you, because they have to get within 9 inches. Really, you don't want to be making 10-inch charges, so they're going to be trying to get within 9 inches to make a charge, and then you can move 6 inches further away, or you can move 6 inches somewhere else to encourage a heroic intervention or something like that. So yeah, really, really useful. Reactive subroutines, brilliant. Thank you very, very much. We can get super speedy Canopteks. I'm very excited to run a Canoptek list. Counter-temporal shift is the next stratagem, and this is in your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. One Canoptek unit from your army that was selected until the end of the phase, your unit can only be selected as target of the range attack if it's within 12 inches. So we now have Cloud of Flies for Canoptek units. Brilliant, perfect. Yeah, so Canoptek. I'm very, very glad. Put it this way, I'm very, very glad I have 18 wraiths. 18 wraiths is going to be really, really interesting with this list. Yeah. So cool. Suboptimal Facade is the final stratagem within the Canoptek Court, and it's in your opponent's charge phase just after a unit has declared a charge. One Canoptek unit from your army that was selected as a target of the charge and is wholly within your army's power matrix. So that's going to be a little bit more tricky to do, because it's in your opponent's phase. So this is going to be when they're going to be charging onto a unit to try and take an objective off in the charge phase, things like that. But anyway, if you're wholly within your army's power matrix, you can reanimate. It's really, really cool. I do like that one. So if you're a little bit low on your wraiths, the wraiths have been shot a little bit. If you can charge them, one command point regenerates some of the wraiths that are on that are being charged. Very, very cool. Right. Sorry, not that one. There we go. This is a cracker. The Obeisance Phalanx. Let's have a look. The detachment rule is called Worthy Foes. In your command phase, select one enemy unit. Until the start of your next command phase, each time an Overlord, Leash Guard, or Triarch unit from your army makes an attack, add 1 to the wound roll. And does anybody want to run 3 Overlords and in a Ghost Arc and just charge out and do the Chaos Space Marine Overlords, Chaos Lord combat monster thing? Yeah, and then the Triarch Praetorians as well. Triarch Praetorians with the scythes and Leash Guard with the scythes. Yeah, this is gonna be. I'm very excited. I'm very, very curious to see how this one's going to play out. I want to write some lists for all of these. I've written a few, but not kind of finished them off. Just kind of been like throwing a few in. So we'll have a look at the enhancements now. The first enhancement for the Obeisance Phalanx is the Honourable Combatant. It's an Overlord model only. Each time the bearer's unit destroys a character, your opponent loses a command point. Hello. That's quite cool. Unfortunately, it's on an Overlord model, which is frustrating. You can give it to Triarchs and you can give it to Leash Guards, but you're pretty much going to be killing characters in combat with that. So you're going to have to be spending You have to be spending command points on precision and things like that when you're in combat, but making them lose a command point is going to be clutch at certain points. Just remember you have this enhancement, so yeah, hopefully this one's going to be on the cheaper side. If that's 10 points, just to kind of top up a 1990 point army, that might be quite good. Unflinching Will, Overlord model only. The bearer's melee weapons have the precision and anti-infantry 5+ abilities. Remember that Overlords have devastating wounds on their weapons already, so you're suddenly devastating wounds precisioning on a 5+ enemy characters, which is going to be great. Liking that indeed. And if we are, if we've picked that unit at the beginning of the turn as well, we're going to be adding 1 to the wound roll. So you're going to be just giving them a ton of wounds and a load of devastating wounds as well. Really, really good. Warrior Noble. Again, Overlord model only. Each time a melee attack targets the bearer's unit, -1 to hit. Great. -1 to hit Leech Guard, -1 to hit Triarch Praetorians. Like it. Sorry, not Triarch Praetorians. -1 to hit Warriors or Immortals. So Leech Guard, -1 to hit. That's probably going to be where it's going to go. Eternal Conqueror is the 4th one. Overlord model only. Each time a model in the bearer's unit makes an attack that targets an enemy unit within range of an objective marker, you can re-roll the hit roll. Great. Again, it's going to be great on a unit of Immortals, and it's going to be great on a unit of Leech Guard. Liking it. Let's have a look at the strats. So your time is nigh. That's referring to everybody else in the 41st millennium. So, 1 command point. This is an epic deed strat, and it is in any phase when your warlord is destroyed. You target your warlord, and until the end of the battle, each time an enemy unit takes a battle shock test, -1 from the result. So, -1 from battle shock tests. You're taking 1 off the result, so they're going to be hopefully fading a little bit more. Kind of suggests that you want to be a little bit aggressive with your warlord, get 1 command point and then make them fail the battle shock test. Battle shock tests are tending to be a little bit more impactful, particularly in the end game, so we'll see how that one works. Enslaved Artifice for 1 command point. This is a battle tactic strat, so you're going to be able to use your Overlord ability on this one, and it's in the shooting or the fight phase. And it's 1 Necron unit excluding Titanic. So you can't do this on a monolith that has not been selected to shoot or fight. On modified hit roll of a 5, scores a crit. So you're now critting on a hit roll of a 5. So anything that's got lethal hits is going to be great. Let's have a look at the next one, which is Nano Assembly Protocols. Battle Tactic Strat. So again, you're going to be able to use this for free with your Overlords. And it's in your shooting phase or your fight phase. And you pick a vehicle. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack is allocated to a model in your unit, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of that attack. Yeah, so -1 damage coming into that vehicle. Great. So shooting it with railgun for slightly less damage. Sentinels of Eternity. So 1 command point. This is in the fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. So you can pick a Leech Guard or a Triarch Praetorian unit from your army. And until the end of the phase, each time a model is destroyed, you get a 4+ fight back. That's cool. I like that one. So if you're being charged, your unit of Leech Guard is being charged, you can 4+ fight back. For 1 command point. Yes, we used to kind of maybe used to be able to do that with the Crypto Thralls before, but now we can do it for like officially with a command point. Suffer No Rival is a battle tactic stratagem. It's in the fight phase, and you pick a Leech Guard or a Triarch unit, and until the end of the phase, melee weapons have precision. So that's cool. We're liking that. Take down a character. And remember, that's the entire unit as well. So we can put your Overlord in there with that -1 command point enhancement, and you can really drop out some characters and gain some, or drop their command points down. Territorial Obsession is the final one, and this is in your command phase. Right, so until the start of your next command phase, you can add 1 to the objective control characteristic of models in your unit. If your unit has the vehicle keyword, add 3 to the objective control characteristic instead. So that will be the Triarch Stalker. So the Triarch Stalker would then go up 3 objective control. So Triarch Praetorians being 2 objective control and Leash Guard being 2 objective control for 1 command point is pretty cool. I'm liking that one. Liking that one a lot. Particularly when we're kind of using those like Leash Guard and the Praetorians as like Necron warrior caddies, if you like. Right, so next one. Sorry, I keep going the wrong way on the buttons. Does anybody like Grey Knights? Does anybody like Grey Knights? Let's do Necrons, but Grey Knights. Now, we have the detachment rule, which is called hyperphasing. And at the end of your opponent's turn, you can select a number of Necron units from your army as followed below. So in Incursion, it's only 2 units. In a Strike Force, which is our 2,000 point games, you can use 3 units. Anything more is 4 units. So once you have made your selections, remove those units from the battlefield and place them into strategic reserve. So at the end of your opponent's turn, you can take 3 units off the battlefield, put them in strat reserve, and then they can come back in either on the board edge or they can deep strike in if they have the deep strike keyword, which is super cool. So this one again, this one's a really cool one, and I really want to dive into this one. There's a lot of synergies along this with monoliths, so you can definitely go in that direction. However, if you lose the monolith, you lose a little bit of the kind of maneuverability. So I'm wondering, I'm going to try and write some lists with this one, which is just strong data sheets which are just bouncing constantly around the battlefield. I think that would be really cool and really fun to do. Let's have a look at some of the enhancements. So, Dimensional Overseer. Necron model only, while the bearer is on the battlefield or in strategic reserve, add 1 to the number of units from your army that you can select for the hyperphasing rule. So this is pretty much, if you're gonna lean into this hyperphasing detachment, this is the first enhancement you're going to be giving a Necron model. So now at the end of your opponent's turn, you can now take 4 units up every turn. Great, really cool. Arisen Tyrant is the next one, so Necron model only. Each time a model in the bearer's unit makes an attack, re-roll a hit roll of a 1. If the bearer's unit was set up on the battlefield this turn, you can re-roll the hit roll instead. So if they're coming in from reserve, boom, 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 you're taking, re-rolling all the hits. This is going to be great for Necron Warriors, if you want to redeploy Necron Warriors, and or Necron Immortals, or anything that's like shooty, dropping them in and just re-rolling all the hits, just getting as many lethal hits as you can, and putting some damage out. It's going to be cool. Hyperspatial Transfer Node is the next one. It's a Necron model only again. Each time this bearer's unit advances, you auto advance 6. Like it. Very cool. Really simple. Ties in with lots of synergies that you can get with things like Chronomancers, where you can fire and fade. Yeah, very good. Osteoclave Fulcrum. A Necron model only. Models in the bearer's unit have the deep strike ability. Oh, so good, especially with this one. So you can go up at the end of your opponent's turn, and then you can deep strike back down 9 inches away from anything on the battlefield. Excuse me, I don't know where that came from. Yeah, that's going to be brilliant. I'm sure there's going to be a perfect unit to put it on. It'll probably be Leash Guard, something like that. It's going to be really good for going into Night Spinners, where you're halving and like stopping us advancing and all that shenanigan shit. So yeah, very good. So Leash Guard up into the hyperphasal realm, and then coming back down onto the battlefield. Let's look at the strats. Hyperphasic Recall is 2 command points. Your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase just after an enemy unit has shot or fought. 1 Necron infantry unit from your army that had 1 or more of its models destroyed as a result of the attacking unit's attacks and a friendly monolith. So you pick a Necron unit, a Necron infantry unit and a monolith. You then remove the infantry unit from the battlefield, and you can set it up anywhere on the battlefield that is wholly within 6 of your monolith and not within engagement range. So you're not only bouncing up and down at the end of every turn, you're also picking up infantry units and putting them out of monoliths during your opponent's turn as well. This is just going to be so much fun. Trying to keep your monolith alive is going to be tricky. Yes, you can hide it now because of the changes to towering, but yeah, let's see how this one goes. 350 points for a monolith at the moment, and we'll see how those points land with the Codex as well. So quantum deflection, when it's in your opponent's shooting phase, this is 1 command point as well, and you can pick a Necron vehicle that was being shot at, and you automatically get a 4-up invuln. Monolith with a 4-up invuln, yeah, it's going to be really, really good. Remember, a monolith has a 2-up save anyway, so a 2-up save in cover, you're going to need to be -3 to get to a 4-up invuln anyway, so anything beyond that, then you can be using 1 command point and give it a 4-up invuln. A lot of the high damage, high anti-vehicle weapons that are being shot at a monolith are going to have quite high AP anyway, so if you can drop a 4-up invuln on it, perfect. Thank you very much indeed. Reanimation Crypts is the next one, and it's 1 command point. Now, this is where we were talking about the reanimation protocols changing, where it was only units that were on the battlefield. For 1 command point, for each Necron unit in reserve, you can then reanimate. So if you have some models which are so if you have some units which are low strength and you do want to bounce them up and down and try and get a little bit more numbers from that unit when you drop him back down, then you can pay 1 command point, and for all the models, for all the units which are in reserve, and remember you could have up to 4 if you had that enhancement, you can then reanimate that unit as well. It will be out of range of the reanimator, but still D3 is pretty cool. Okay, next one is Cosmic Precision. This is in your movement phase, and you can drop in 3 inches away. Can't charge, but you can drop in 3 inches away. Thank you very much. So we're not this detachment is just going to be so much fun. Like, I really enjoyed playing against and playing with Grey Knights in this edition so far, just kind of bouncing up, bouncing down, dropping in 3 inches away, moving out of the way and everything like this. So having this with that as well, your enemy is just not going to be able to zone you out. You're going to be able to find little spots to drop in and just cause havoc. And remember, 3 inches away, unless they are standing right on the center of an objective, you're going to be able to steal objectives from them as well if you have some small units. So it's going to be brilliant. Some death marks will be really cool with this. So deep strike in with a small unit of death marks 3 inches away. You might be able to steal some objectives off them. Yeah, very cool. Dimensional Corridor. This is 2 command points though. It's in your charge phase. And yeah, so you can get out of a monolith and charge. 2 command points. So the Eternity Gate ability of a monolith, so you can move the monolith, you can get a unit out of the monolith, and then for 2 command points that unit can then charge as well. And it's just a Necron unit. You can use this on Scorpet Destroyers, you can use this on anything you like. Thank you very much, we'll have a bit of that. Entropic Dampening is the last one. It's the last stratagem, not enhancement. It's the last stratagem. It's 1 command point. It's in your opponent's shooting phase just after you've been selected, and you pick a Titanic model from your army. So that's going to be either the monolith, the obelisk, or the heavy construct. And if you this is so funny, that was selected as a target and is within 18 inches. So it has to be within 18 inches. Until the end of the phase, weapons equipped by the models in the attacking unit have hazardous. Now, I don't know how this is going to stack. I don't know whether crisis battle suits are going to have to take 2 hazardous checks. I don't know, but that's just absolutely brilliant. I love that. For 1 command point, if it's a Wraithguard, for instance, if Wraithguard are shooting at a monolith, trying to drop a monolith down, and they're just going to be killing themselves on the way back as well. So very cool. So that is the final detachment in the new Necron Codex. It's really good. I've said with the Tyranid Codex, I said it with the Space Marine Codex when I was on stream as well. I did a review of the Tyranid Codex on the YouTube as well. You can go and have a look at that if you want to. But I said it on there, and I'm saying it again on here. And it's the same with the AdMech one as well. I really like how they're writing the codexes at the moment. There's lots of very kind of narrowed rules, which being linked to the keywords within the codex can be so specific to particular units and particular types of units that you're not really finding that many occasions where you can take a stratagem or you can take an enhancement and just pile it on to something which it's not supposed to be applied to, if that makes sense. So, like, for instance, back in 8th edition, re-rolling everything on a unit of cultists, like, that was not supposed to be the intention of that strat. Whereas the rules and how they're doing the codexes now, tying everything to a very specific keyword, and then just doing like you're just getting little buffs. You're just re-rolling ones here or there, or you're re-rolling everything if you can. I completely can't remember the name of that word either. Can't remember that word. If you can hit some criteria, some specific criteria, then you can re-roll everything. So I do like it. I think it's fantastic. I hope they keep going in this direction. In terms of what the best detachment is, it's probably still the Awakened Dynasty. It's probably still the first one. However, the Canoptek Court, I think, is going to be really interesting to see if we can see what we can do with that. 18 Wraiths is probably going to be a thing. The Annihilation Legion, I really want to like. I don't know how competitive it's going to be. It's definitely going to be fun, running a ton of destroyers everywhere and dropping in Locust destroyers, giving them +1 armor penetration, things like that. So there's definitely some synergies within the Annihilation Legion. The Canoptek Court, I think, is brilliant. The Hypercrypt Legion, I'm just going to have so much fun with. Yes, there's a lot of synergy within the Hypercrypt Legion around the monolith. I'm really curious to see how many units, like good quality data sheets, I can use within that detachment and just have a very high quality army that's constantly bouncing around. I think that might be really, really good fun. I'm a little bit disappointed there's not a if you shoot at me I go away, or if you move close to me I'm going to disappear, like the Grey Knight one, because I think that's a really, really interesting mechanic. So it's a little bit sad that that's not in there, but the rest of the rules in it are fantastic. Absolutely love it. The Obeisance Phalanx is really cool. I do like that one, being focused around the Triarch Praetorians and the Leash Guard. There's one thing in there I wish they'd had. Just one little tagline in that Phalanx detachment that said that Overlords in the Obeisance Phalanx detachment, Overlords can join Triarch Praetorian units. I think that would make sense. I think that would be really, really cool. I'm really sad that things can't join Triarch Praetorian units. I know they are the Triarch, but I just think within that detachment that would be quite a nice little change. And I love the fact that Technomancers can now join Wraiths. That's awesome. Again, it's just little things like that which are great. The Hypercrypt Legion, I'm just going to have tons of fun with that. So let me know down in the comments down below which detachment you're excited about, which detachment you're going to try and put on the table first when the Codex lands. And please drop me a like and a follow as well, and check out the next video where we're going to be going through all the unit changes and maybe some synergies that we can find within the Codex as well. So thank you very much, everybody. Take care. Drop me a like and a subscribe, and you can find me on Twitch, Instagram, all the social medias at Chris Froston as well. So come and say hey at any point you like. Take care, everybody. Thanks very much. See you later. Bye.